our monthly webinar. My name is Brandon Savage. I'm the head of solution enablement here at Vosic AI. We're grateful to all those who have joined us today for this month's edition of our Mastering Subscription Success Using AI webinars. Today's topic is going to focus on how AI-led growth transformation masterclass for subscription business leaders. We're excited to be able to share some of the things that we've learned, particularly over the last few years as we've worked with some of the largest subscription-based home service and recurring revenue businesses in a variety of industries. We've been able to put together a proven playbook for how you can take artificial intelligence to make a value-driven approach to acquisition, retention, and growth within your company. So let's kick things off and get started. As I said, my name is Brandon Savage. I am the head of solution enablement here. I've spent over 2 decades in customer experience and operation roles in recurring revenue subscription-based businesses. My teams were responsible for customer retention, and it was always a challenge when we would see our attrition numbers beginning to climb, and we weren't quite sure why and what we could do. And I always hypothesized of what it would be like if, when a customer was calling in, that we already knew what they were going to call in about and what we could do proactively to keep them from calling in. And it was almost a decade ago when I first met Vasu and found out that he was working on a solution that would do that. So Vasu, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely, Brandon. Yeah, good memory of everything, how we met and all of that. But fantastic topic for us today. I'm excited to share with everyone about how we can use this technology that is absolutely business ready to predict, for various use cases, whether it is retention use case or sales growth use case or price optimization use case or upgrade use case. And then more than that, operationalize and realize tens of millions of dollars in value. My experience over the last 25 years has been in implementing solutions using advanced technologies like AI and many other similar technologies. And we are going to package all of that into a 5-step, what we are calling a playbook, so you can implement similar things. Brandon?
Terrific. So we've had a sequence of webinars, and in one of our past webinars, we talked about this amazing statistic that 95% of AI projects have failed. And to contrast that, we've talked about the partnerships that we've had with companies where we've been able to help them succeed. And so the question you might have is, well, if 95% of companies are failing at this, what are you doing at Vosic that is so different and allowing you to be within that 5%? And there are times where we've kind of wondered, like, why is it working for us? But we've definitely been able, as we've seen some of the research of various consulting firms looking at some of the challenges, they've identified something that we're doing very well. Here is a quote from Sonia Oja of Bain Capital Ventures. And it says, in enterprise AI, the model is the easy part. The hard part and the difference between demo and value is framing the right problem, building the data plumbing, designing the org, and bringing people along. And it's all 4 of those things that we've had baked into our solution and our advisory service from when we started. And we recognize now that is the key to success. It's not just the data part, it's not just the model. It's being able to have the change management to identify how it's going to impact the business model, and then being able to communicate that to the stakeholders within the organization in order to affect change. So there's execution challenges, there's collaboration challenges, and we believe we've put together a successful playbook to tackle both of these. What we'd like to share with you today is our 5-point playbook for turning the struggles you have with artificial intelligence into success and being able to demonstrate a measurable and a significant business impact within your organization. So the 5 steps of this playbook are: first, our proof of value trial, where we work with you and your team to take your model to be able to show how your data, to use our models to show you how you would see a difference within your organization. That allows us to get to the second step, to be able to create a growth roadmap, to be able to show what your opportunities are within your organization, and then to be able to explain that to your stakeholders of how you'll be able to capture that business case and that increased enterprise valuation. Both of those are part of our proof of value trial that comes at no cost. Once you've looked at that and decided you want to move forward and we move into our production solution, we have step 3, which is our quick launch. If we've already done the proof of value trial, we've already got the data, we've already set up the environment, it's really easy for us to launch quickly. As we start with the first use case and see success there, we move to step 4 and we expand the use cases to maybe not just focus on your customer retention, but then to look at ways you can use strategic price increases within your organization, to be able to look at the leads that you have coming in, to use models to value those leads, and then to continue to move to step 5, to scale channels across your organization to be able to continue to maximize customer lifetime value. This 5-point playbook has led to success. And in fact, this year we were recognized by CMS Wire Impact Awards as the gold winner for the best use of AI in customer experience. We're excited to be able to accomplish that, and I'm going to turn the time over to Vasu for the bulk of our webinar.
Awesome. Yeah. So everything Brandon mentioned in terms of what is helping us deliver tens of millions of dollars in value for our customers, truly operationalize the predictive insights that we have, and win awards that are kind of gold standard awards for not just implementing but impact delivering, right? Delivering that impact on the scale of tens of millions. All of that starts with this idea that for subscription businesses, not every customer is equal in value, right? So let's pause here and try to unpack this. Not every customer is equal in value. It's easier to say this, but if we can truly understand and not necessarily look at, if your average lifetime value of your customer is considered, let's say, $2,000, instead of looking at that average, if we can truly understand, maybe our best customers are valued at $5,000 and maybe not so good customers are valued at, let's say, $500. And these examples are actually true examples that I'm using. $500 in value to $5,000 of value, that's a 10x difference in value. If we have magically a way of understanding that, then what Peter Feder, who's teaching at Wharton Business School, Brandon happened to work with Peter Feder, and he wrote several books on this idea of customer centricity. And what he says is customer centricity is about identifying your most valuable customers, who's at $500 value and who's at $5,000 value, and then using that in a strategic way to develop your products and services or tweak your products and services in a way to meet the needs of your high value customers, and using that as a strategy to acquire their friends and family and similar customers like your best customers, so on and so forth. It actually transforms your business. So that is the opportunity that we are talking. In the next 15 minutes, I will unpack how any subscription business can take advantage of AI technology and actually predictively do this. That's the key. Predictively do this. That means going forward, like what is your future value if you have 100,000 subscribers for every single subscriber, not just using averages, right? So that's the core of everything that we are talking about, which worked extremely well for us. We're also heavily recommending these books that we highlighted here. All 3 books are wonderful books. All of them talk about the same concept at different levels. But if you're buying one book, I would recommend that middle book, right? The Customer Centricity Playbook, $15. In fact, like I would suggest, get 10 of them, give it to your team members, $150, good spend of your $150, right? So that's the kind of background and the core idea. Now, let me flip to the next slide. So what high performing subscription businesses are doing is they know how to identify their most valuable subscribers, their unique needs, and they have a way of meeting those needs at various points, right? So now imagine every customer, they're going through their, life cycles, some are happy moments, some are unhappy moments, some are calling, some are trying to cancel, some are trying to upgrade, some might be looking at your referral email, right? So all these life events are happening to your customers. They're all at various points, right? Now, if you magically know which customer we're talking with or working with, whether they are the $500 customer or the $5,000 customer, very, very interesting things can happen. Now imagine most of us are, frequent travelers, right? So, we are on flights and, we are on, Marriott or, whatever your favorite hotel is. Look at what is happening to you, literally, right? So you are either sitting in a premium seat or sitting in the back of the flight because the airline has figured out your lifetime value. Marriott is doing the same thing, right? They are giving, the best available room to you or the, average room to you based on your loyalty because they have a way of predicting this and operationalizing this. And that's exactly what we are talking about. Like when someone says, I'm upset, how do you handle that, right? Is there an offer that we are giving when someone says, I want to cancel? And is that a loss-making offer or a profitable offer? If we have the predicted future lifetime value, we have a lot of ways of handling these day-to-day situations, exactly like how airlines are handling, how hotels are handling. They've been doing this for a long time, and now we are bringing that type of technology at a customer level to all the subscribers, right? So that's the key. Now you might be asking, how do we do this for our business, right? So now, regardless of which business you are, home security, pest control, telecom, streaming service, food delivery service, any of the subscription verticals, right? Um, you have a lot of internal data, right? Because we have gone through a lot of discussions with many of these industry leaders, and sometimes they think AI is so complicated and we need to first streamline all these data sources before we can even work there. They all want to do this, but they're all kind of questioning, am I ready for this? Do I have the necessary data? I have good news for all of you. You absolutely have the data. As long as you're doing the basics right, meaning you have the address of a customer, you know when the customer started, you know what plan they are in, you know how they're paying, how much they're paying, you know where they live, and you have some sort of satisfaction survey tracking system, you have some sort of call center handling system, you have some sort of issues and issue tracking and issue resolution system. As long as you have these basics, which most subscription companies, that is part of the business. They all have this, right? As long as you have that, there is a ton of signal. We take all of that data sources on the left side on this slide, and then we combine that with a few other. If you are a home services company, we kind of integrate that with Zillow and homes and neighborhoods and IRS and all of that, and kind of extract lifestyle information, value information, all of that. And what we have on the right side, this is the type of work that we do. Turn all of that into predictive models. Everything starts with like what Peter is saying. What is the value of this customer? $500 or $5,000? We have a model for that, customer lifetime value model for every customer, not just average, right? We have another model that will identify who's likely to cancel and why they will cancel. It's a churn model. We have another model, price optimization model, who's price sensitive, like when you increase the prices by $3 or $5 for a monthly service, who's calling and complaining and canceling, or who's absorbing that price, because of the value extraction they have from your service, or maybe their affordability, all of that. All of this can be extracted based on the data sources on the left side. Even lead scoring and lead value, because if we know who is our $5,000 customer, we can take a lead and immediately match it with, is this profile more like matching with our high value subscriber or a low value subscriber? Based on that, you can tweak your sales offers and increase your conversion rate. So there are many other use cases, one-time upgrades, many other scenarios like that. So the point I wanted to highlight here is all the subscription businesses, they are already sitting on all of this type of data. And it is, for experts like us, who have done this, several times, all the things on the right side, they're relatively easy for us to implement on your data, customized for your business, right? So that's the good news. So now this is the concept, right? Not every customer is equal in value. If we can understand that, we can meet the needs of customer, using, the value of the customer as a strategic advantage. And it is, for those who know how to do this, you're all sitting on the data, and it's easy enough to translate all of this into predictive scores for every customer. Now, that's the most technology that I'm going to talk about on this particular webinar. What I want to really focus on is, how do you start? Where do you start? How do you operationalize? How do you transform your business to the point of realizing tens of millions of dollars in value, right? So that's the playbook that we're talking about. This is the technology and the concept. What I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes is, how do you do this, right? If we do this right, Brandon shared, awards and all these things. I have one more visual to say, these are companies, representative companies that have 100,000 subscribers to 500,000 subscribers to, up to 1 million subscribers. If you have more than that, multiply these numbers. If you have less than that, divide these numbers. But what we are talking about is transforming subscription businesses by adding tens of millions of lifetime value, which quickly adds into enterprise valuation, right? So these are fantastic examples for someone to get inspiration and look for a way of replicating this, right? So now let's talk about the playbook. Regardless of the use case, whether we are talking about acquisition or retention or growth, these are all the kind of primary levers to grow the value of a subscription business. And the playbook that we are talking about systematically helps you in kind of going through these use cases, right? So it's the same playbook that Brandon shared and briefly talked about. We highly recommend going through this in this particular order. Everyone wants, let's scale the channels. Let's deploy some predictive models in our call center. Let's deploy some predictive models in our, sales channel, right? And we, respectfully, ask our prospects and customers to pause for a minute and allow us to share what is really allowing us to deliver tens of millions of dollars. And we always, always, always recommend, it is best for us to take some time before you deploy this in production, involve your IT, and change the process, all of that. Please help yourself. Start with step number one, which is some small scale proof of value, right? Are your customers predictable? If they are predictable, right? Let us actually, complete that exercise. How different they are in their lifetime value. $500 customer and $5,000 customer, but do the models on your data, using your data, right? So that way, we kind of help you identify the right data sources, build the necessary model, within 3 to 4 weeks. Do this very, very quickly, and then kind of look at how different they are. That will allow us to project what could be an operational roadmap, what could be a good business case, so on and so forth. And then we can talk about launching and scaling and so on and so forth. What I will do in the next couple of slides is, how does each of these steps look like? I'm just going to take 30 seconds to walk through each of these steps. Step number one is building the models, but there is a method to this madness, right? So first, we'll kind of work with your team, identify the necessary data sources and things like that, and then go through our process, all the steps in step two, analyze the data. Some of that is going to include survival analysis. Survival analysis of customers, who signed up for your premium plan versus, lower value plan. Survival analysis of those who are living in urban areas versus rural areas. Survival analysis of those who bought some additional things versus didn't buy your additional things that you have access to. So there are, bunch of survival analysis that we do, geo analysis, data collection, time series analysis. If you have, mobile apps and websites and satisfaction surveys. What happens after that particular event? What happens when they log in? What happens when they complain? What happens when they give you a positive rating on a survey? What happens when they give you a negative rating on a survey? All of this analysis, we go through all of that relatively quickly within weeks, right? And then get to bottom left, which is predicting. In this case, we are using an example of predicting churn, how likely they're going to cancel, but immediately translating into the main objective of this activity, which is how valuable they are, $500 versus $5,000, right? So that's the customer lifetime value model. So we kind of complete that as the underlying foundational model. And then we kind of, translate all of that into a roadmap for implementation by segmenting your customers based on value and risk levels and conversion ratings and things like that, and come up with suggested, best fit offers that are slight tweaks to what you are doing, but ensuring profitability, right? So this is kind of everything packaged into a 4-week activity. This is relatively easy and straightforward for us, and we heavily recommend going through this activity, right, to make sure that you have enough data that has high enough predictive power. You have enough variance between your high value customer and low value customer. You have enough actions that you can do to influence the outcomes and convert some of these medium value, low value customers into high value customers, or maybe acquire more of your high value customers, right? So whatever is your scenario, it just works as a foundational step to identify how does a business case look like, right? So immediately we translate all of this proof of value exercise into, on the left side, there's a readout, it's 30 pages long. It will have like all the insights that were identified. And what most of our customers and prospects appreciate is the PowerPoint presentation on the right side. It's an 80-page PowerPoint presentation that highlights the similarities and differences of your customers, but based on predicted future value. That is where the real value is, not really calculating, how much money we made on your existing customers up until now, right? So that's one thing, but using all of that information and predicting what is the future value that we can extract from these. And the good news is, regardless of, whether that value is high or low, because we are predicting that, we have a way of increasing that over a period of time, right? So the trial concludes with these steps. Now, what this will do before we are implementing, putting this into production, all of that, what this will do is it allows you to bring your data team. It allows you to bring your CFO, CMO, Chief Operating Officer. It allows you to bring all of them together on this idea, on this vision, on this strategy, on the value. So now you have a way of scaling this, launching this and scaling this to a much higher level, right? Without this type of exercise, I think, like what Brandon shared, like, that MIT report, everyone is excited about implementing AI. They have seen some examples, but they're not fully realizing all this value, or this is taking forever. It's not like AI has a problem. The problem is with how you are implementing, how you are rallying your team together, what business case you are, going after, how high is your, vision. I think if we don't go through that exercise, I think, some of this is, just remaining as a laptop project, with, proof of concept is wonderful, but, we're not able to scale. The fundamental gap that we are identifying, because we have done this so many times, we have lessons from projects that worked very well and lessons from projects that didn't work very well. So all of that is coming through, hey, someone didn't go through this exercise of using all the data sources or bringing all the necessary people or agreeing on the vision and a roadmap, right? So if we kind of bring everyone together on that, I think everyone is ready for launching this in a small scale, but then with a vision of making this very, very big over a period of time, right? So steps 1 and 2, we are offering this as a no-cost trial. It takes about 4 weeks. And if you like everything there, then it's ready. We're calling that particular step a quick launch, right? So quick launch is where you have already seen the differences in customers. You have already agreed by bringing all your senior leaders into one room that this is all actionable. This is all, going to create value. Until then, this is, kind of doing the exercise through insights and PowerPoints and discussions and all of that type of thing. But I'm going to demonstrate how the launch is going to look like. That will have these, kind of things, scoring every customer, putting all these customers, with high values and low values into various microsegments, identifying the, value differences across, geographic locations, and most important thing on the right side, actioning, through your frontline, whether that is your, field service team, or whether that is your call center team, or whether that is your, marketing team, reaching out to your customers, or maybe even website and all that, right? How do you turn all your customer interactions based on value with proactive, purposeful actions that will enhance that particular value, right? So let me switch into the application. I'm going to spend 5 minutes on this. The purpose of this is not to click every single button, but I just want to use several examples, whether it is retention or price optimization or lead scoring, like how do you operationalize all of that? So it's under one platform. You have all these solutions, right? Data integrated, multiple use cases sitting in one centralized place, right? So here, this is identifying if you have 100,000 subscribers, scoring them into high risk, medium risk, low risk. If your average attrition is 50%, it is already classifying your high risk is attriting or predicted attrition at 76%. Low risk predicted attrition is 22%. But if this 50% attrition is translating into $30 million of lost revenue through churn, what it is saying is, by the way, through high risk, 35,000 customers itself, you're losing $17 million. And then through the low risk, you're losing $4 million, right? We would rather focus on that 17 million, high risk, that we can prevent, right? So micro segments, how are your customers looking like? On the left side, you have customers with 80% attrition. Somewhere in the middle, you have customers with 60% attrition. Somewhere to the right, you have 40% attrition and maybe 20% attrition, right? So the system is automatically scoring and nicely organizing them into your packages and risk scores and things like that. My favorite view here is the geo analysis, right? So especially important for home services based industries. So it can identify, churn scores for, state level, or maybe we can zoom into, various zip codes. This particular zip code has 62% attrition, or even to the customer level, right? This particular customer is predicted with, 80% attrition. We can go down all the way down to the home and things like that, right? So very, very granular, predictions at the customer level. If we go into, let's say, lead scoring, it is doing exactly the same thing. Even before we convert the lead, it is already assigning $1,800 of value, $700 of value, $1,200 of value, $2,400 of value. And the way it is doing that is by using all these attributes that the models will extract and then assign a lead score, and even how similar this is to our high value versus low value customers. And in this case, it turns out to be this is more similar to high value. That means you can give appropriate offers and convert you don't want to lose your potential, high converting, high value lead by making sure that their needs are met. Even if that means like, you give an extra sweet incentive, because we already know once converted, their future value is extremely high, right? I'll just quickly highlight, how price increases could look like, right? Because we are all talking about like predictions, underlying predictions at the customer level. So if your business has the practice of increasing prices, once a year or something like that, what this system is doing is it is identifying, for every subscriber monthly price and their relative price. Are they, already paying higher or lower? What service do they have, like basic versus premium versus advanced? And it is also identifying their price sensitivity. High sensitive, that means they are going to react in a negative way, or low sensitivity, that means like they would rather keep the service, won't respond to small price changes. And it recommends, small increase or a high increase, and also, timing, best time to increase is now versus best time to increase is later. So regardless of which use case you are looking at, whether it is getting customers through optimizing sales or keeping customers through retention, proactive campaigns, or even growing your existing customers through price optimization. And there are many other use cases, but this is how the scoring looks like. Every customer is scored individually. And good news is all of this data is available through APIs. So you can actually put it into your CRM systems, your marketing systems, so on and so forth, right? So that's kind of a feel for how these predictions and the business case can be operationalized um, into various use cases. Once you are ready for that, then we can talk about like adding additional use cases, right? So I have demonstrated a couple of examples of these types of things. So on the left side, you have getting customers, whether it is lead scoring or even unconverted leads, can we retarget them, go through a second pass and go after the high value unconverted leads from the past, or even reacquiring some of the canceled customers through win back process. In the middle, you have, win backs or, retention. On the right side, you have examples of upgrades and referrals and price optimization, right? The underlying foundation all works the same way. Taking your data, identifying the value of the customer, and scoring them, for churn or lead conversion or one-time add-on or price sensitivity, right? All of that working together as one system. I did include a quick business case, assuming there's 100,000 customers. Like, what is potential value, right? So I keep saying tens of millions of dollars in value. But if you have a company that has 100,000 customers, these are illustrative examples. We can add another 5,000 to 6,000 additional customers without the additional cost by increasing your lead conversions. Or in the middle, another 8,000 to $12,000. I mean, customer equivalent. Or on the right side, you have another 5% more value extraction. So certainly extremely high value scenarios. But all of this we recommend, like, start with one use case, and then it just becomes easier to use the same platform to add additional scenarios. And finally, let's not forget, this is not just doing this in the call center. This is not just doing this in the field, not just doing this in the marketing. Imagine the number of customer touch points you have. Um, some of this insight can be used in acquiring through ads, acquiring leads through ads. Some of this can be used for, chats, emails, right? If you have a mobile app, you can integrate this type of insight and proactive interventions into your mobile app or field, right? So there are multiple channels. So what we do as a company after the trial is we become an extension of your team and walk you through, all the steps, like how do you launch, and which use case is the best one to expand, and which channel is the best one to expand. And we hold your hand and we walk you through all these necessary steps. And that is the formula that is absolutely working extremely well for us and putting us on the side of the 5% that is extracting so much value out of this AI technology compared to the 95% who have access to the technology, but they're lacking the know-how and they're going through a lot of time, not necessarily realizing all the value, right? So Brandon, I will pass it back to you so you can recap and
Excellent. Thank you, Vasu. So as we look at recapping and talking about what the next steps are, as we look at this 5-step roadmap, and you've had the opportunity to see what that would entail as part of the proof of value trial and what the roadmap would look like. 4 weeks, no cost. If you're a company that's looking to say, hey, we know we need to be using artificial intelligence, let's talk. If you're a company that's experiencing some higher than usual customer attrition, let's talk. If you're looking for ways to be able to do your price increases more strategically, let's talk. If you have leads that it would be helpful for you to be able to know what that lead could turn into if it was a converted customer in terms of customer lifetime value, let's talk. We had the opportunity a few weeks ago to meet with an executive team and do this executive readout. We'd had 4 weeks to be able to run our models on their data. We sat down with them and went through a pretty lengthy PowerPoint, kind of like what Vasu showed you. We were able to go through the live tool and look at their customer data, to look at individual customers and to look at the risk profiles of various segments within their business. And different executives around the table, you could see the light bulbs going off above their head. It's like, if we knew that information about that customer, we'd know what we would do with it. It gives us information to understand how we would act proactively. what type of campaigns we would run in order to grow the business. We have the opportunity to be able to do that with you as well. And this proof of value trial takes 4 weeks. We can sit down with you and with the lead of your data team to talk about what that data looks like. We can run that entire proof of value trial in your cloud so that data never leaves your control. We can set up a cloud on our side and do it there. And what you get at the end of the 4 weeks is us being able to identify who your best customers are, what the unique attributes are, to be able to do customer level predictions, to be able to create an entire business case that shows what your long-term ROI would be in partnering with us, and have an implementation roadmap of what that would look like. We would love the opportunity to partner with you. If you're interested in this, feel free to reach out to us. You can send an email to info@vosic.ai. You can connect with either Vasu and I on LinkedIn. We'd be happy to be able to spend time with your team, show you what this solution can do using your own data. And after a partnership, we know that we can help create tens of millions of dollars of enterprise value for your business. So thanks for your time today. We look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you again next month.